Welcome back to the desk, everyone. My name is Ardog with the Triple G, your host for today's event. You are watching PCC8 Day 1 of the Swiss Stages, where we start with 24 and after today, we leave with 16. I am joined by yours truly, content creator, Omega tester, and offlaner extraordinaire. How are you, Joey?
I'm doing fantastic today. How are you doing, Odd Dog?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. I'm super excited to watch game number 3 of today. And of course, we are joined by Trix, one of our top dog analysts who is also an observer here at the PCC. How are you, Trix?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be back on the desk with you guys, and I'm looking forward to some great games.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since we last saw you on broadcast here, Trix. And for those who are joining in and watching us here at the PCC, thank you so much. If you like what you're seeing here today, please join or follow us on Twitch. We're on YouTube. Please help us out with a subscription. We really appreciate it. And again, shout out to these little chats you're seeing here. Tang, thank you so much. But without further ado, let's talk about game number 3. We will be watching Rogue yet again, but this time around, they'll be against Rattus Maximus. What a name. Trix, start us off with what you know about these two teams.
Yeah, Rogue, we just saw them, so I'm going to kind of gloss over that. I think the previous desk covered them pretty well. But Rattus Maximus has some star players, players that we've definitely seen before. We're talking about Bartledew. We're talking about Maddie, Natty, Creed. Big names. If you play, higher MMR solo queue, you've definitely run into these players a couple times before, and they are all forces to be reckoned with in their respective roles.
Yeah, and one interesting thing to note is that Rattus Maximus played bad timing last round, and they actually beat them. They actually upset Pablo's team right there. There's been actually a lot of upsets too, with the Doctors getting upset by Top Physique as well. So really don't underestimate Rattus Maximus going into this game, because they're actually showing up really strongly so far in the Swiss brackets.
And individually, we know they're good players, so they have that potential to move through the Swiss stages and into groups. So looking forward to see what they can pull through in game number 3. But we gotta talk about Rogue. We just watched what they were able to do and turn things around. Remind us again, Trix, what we know about Rogue.
Yeah, Rogue, Bondrewd, good job, Bondrewd. He's a classic offlaner, very consistent in his performances, I think. Wangle, I think, is a little bit of the star of the show, but Neft last game really popped off. He's subbing for Haru this Swiss stage, which I think he pulled his weight as expected, and then some. Really, like he absolutely popped off, especially considering he's playing on ping. It was a spectacular performance. We saw them struggle quite a bit, I would say, in the early game, but then I think the experience kind of took over. They played around the objectives really well, caught the hive slipping a couple times, and then were able to close it out in a pretty decisive fashion.
Yeah, the one really thing that I kind of notice about like some of the really top teams, it's not necessarily like how well you can play the early game, but it's how well you can play the mid to late game team fight. Because we even see like some teams able to beat out like Professors, for example, this early game, but then Professors just always have a super strong mid to late game, and that's kind of like how they just able to beat top performers so many times over. And from the last game we saw, Rogue definitely show why they deserve to be in the top 8 spot with that like really good team fighting skills mid to late game. And Hive, even though they have a huge early game over them, they just really couldn't come together as a team in this mid to late game team fights.
So we already know going into game number 3 that Rogue really favors that scaling kind of team. But now the draft is ready. So let's actually see what these boys are coming in to the Swiss stages. We've got the first band going in for Rogue. So we'll just have to see how. Oh, and we've got the Richter there.
Yeah, that's honestly that's kind of expected. Bartledew is a bit of a menace on the Richter, and you really don't want to give a team full of players that are that individually skilled that kind of pick off power in the early game, especially when you're after last game where you struggled so much in the early game. You don't want to kind of give Richter over to a team that wants it, because it really makes it kind of coin flippy, and then once they get rolling, they can just kind of steamroll. And I don't think that Rattus Maximus is going to give the same kind of breathing room that the Hive did for Rogue to get back on their feet.
And we see right here, Rattus Maximus just going for the Aurora ban right there. Just the Aurora is just a really just annoying hero to deal with, especially in the comp scene. Both in offlane and jungle, she just provides like so much like pressure, and her late game like team fight, it's just unmatched right there. But we're picking up Deku first pick. That's not like too surprising, because Rogue is one of those teams that's been like screaming the whole ton. They really value the Deku pick all ban. So if Deku's up, they're gonna definitely just snack it away from the other team.
And we saw what Decker can do from that first match we saw with VP Salesman. But on the other side, we've got the Kwang and the Drongo. So normally we don't see the ADC being a first pick, but there's Rattus Maximus showing a lot of priority with that Drongo pick out of all the other ADCs, along with that Kwang, who's able to help engage and use his initiation with the tether. So we'll just have to see what Rogue will respond, but there's that Zarus.
Yeah, honestly quite some weird picks from Rattus Maximus. I wouldn't expect the ADC to go over that early. It's typically not a high priority pick, and I think that the power levels are kind of, even across the board. Obviously, there's different strengths to each one, but maybe they're just prioritizing that gag grenade or that escape on the Drongo. But once again, we see Wangle going over towards the Iggy and Scorch, really prioritizing that objective killing power, and Zarus is just a solid pickup in general.
Yeah, like Iggy and Scorch, it's been getting more and more popular as time goes on. Like even in the more recent like Wink days this week, Iggy and Scorch I've been noticing getting banned a lot, and there's a big reason for it. He just does so much damage, and not only that, again, he's just an objective destroyer. If you can play around the Iggy like poke and sustain kind of damage, it can be really hard to break in and actually go for the kill when you already have HP by the Iggy and Scorch right there. I'm actually really surprised too, again, with the Quan pick early on. Drongo makes a little bit more sense, because Drongo has been like a more kind of favorite kind of pick in these like scrims, like always picking them up because he's just a really powerful ADC, and probably Rattus Maximus doesn't want to see Nef on that Drongo pick. But the last pick in this first half is going to be given to the Gadget. I think that's actually a decent matchup to the Iggy and Scorch, because you can kind of outrange the Iggy and Scorch, and they play very similarly to that duo as well, being able to really poke out people a lot. So it's going to be a game of who can poke out which team the best right here.
We have the Iggy who's able to literally burn down objectives, but there's a lot of damage coming in from the Gadget, because if you make that one step or sidestep over to the side and you land on a sticky mine, boom, you get a lot of poke damage, which you mentioned, Joey. But now we're seeing that ban. They don't want to have Rogue to have that steal. Steal, we saw Mr. Guru was able to really use and utilize against Bondrewd. So perhaps this is something that they don't want to go up against, because the Kwang, they just struggled with him. But they're also taking away that sustain with that Narbash from the Rogue side. They don't want him to be in this game, and we're met with crowd control coming in from the Argus.
Yeah, seeing two support bans from Rogue, kind of singling out Bartledew. I think that's probably a pretty smart play. With Neft on ping, I think the players on Rattus Maximus can really take advantage of that. So just banning out two of Bartledew's comfort picks, taking out that utility. You don't necessarily want to have the Narbash and the Gadget on the same team. That just gives you so much movement speed to kind of run down the enemy team. And I really do like the Gadget pickup against the Iggy and Scorch. Not only the Tesla Dome, but also just the Seek and Destroy can really melt down those turrets and take away some of that staying power that Iggy has once he gets set up inside the objective pits. Argus probably going to move into the support role, and I think that's a pretty good pickup. The long-range CC and just having a second magic damage dealer is pretty good, but the Rattus Maximus comp is leaning pretty heavy towards magic damage at the moment.
Yeah, they definitely need to pick up something to command up the damage towards the last pick. But we see Sevok being picked up by Rogue. It's kind of like a classic combo. I see a lot of people like Sevok and Sears together because both of them are just excellent divers, they're excellent team fighters. Sailors have a really strong early game that can kind of offset the Sailor's weaker early game and let the Sailor kind of carry the more mid to late game team fights. And here being last pick by Rogue, that's definitely like a net pick right there. A lot of high damage, especially if you can combo with the Decker and her combos, they can do a lot of damage. So Rogue just going full stops on the dual lane like early game, just trying to get some kills against Rattus Maximus right there.
We mentioned this earlier, but Rogue is really looking to scale here. You're seeing the Iggy and Scorch as well as that Sevarog pick. But now we've got the last pick that's remaining for Rattus Maximus, and that's the Countess Tricks.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Like we mentioned earlier, the very heavy magic damage, but this could just be kind of a long con to have Rogue spec more into magical armor and let the Drongo kind of run wild. I really like the Kira pick from Rogue with the double cage, kind of not only the Colosseum but also the containment fence on the side of Rogue. Is going to lend a lot of value to Kira's ultimate and really just give them even kind of more of that zone control kind of a style of play that comp is looking forward to. But the Countess into the Decker is very strange to me. But I mean, it could definitely work. They have a lot of one shot potential on the side of Rattus Maximus.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Rattus Maximus is trying to go for like the backline pick, especially like the Iggy and Scorch, because if you can just delete him before he can do much stuff in the team fights, that's actually going to be super good for Rattus Maximus. But at the same time, if they take too long to do anything with their team comp, Rogue is going to run straight over them. So Rattus Maximus with the counts August Gadget Con, like they need to go for picks really fast, because if they don't find those picks fast, then Rogue is just going to straight up beat them in those team fights pretty dang easily.
This is game number 3. We've got the draft up between Rogue and Rattus Maximus. Is Rattus Maximus are they going to let Rogue get away with it, or are they going to take game number 3? We're going to hand it over to Falcon and Woofy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's me again. I have returned with a vengeance. Tedium is still around just as an observer, but we have another chair 2 for you today with a GG, the Danish Dynamite, here together with Falcon, the British Big Brain. How you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. I have had a day. I have had a journey to reach here. If anyone saw on my Twitter, I woke up in Spain today. I'm now in England, but I'm here for the PCC. I'm here for this game, and I'm going to have all the energy that I have left for it.
Yeah, welcome back from your vacation. Hope it was a good time. Now we're going to have even more good times, as we're going to see Rogue and Rattus Maximus go and duke it out against each other. And we have some very interesting picks here, Falcon. There was one you mentioned in particular, and that was the jungle matchup. We got a Countess over on Rattus Maximus.
Yeah, I generally can't think of the last time we saw a Countess, especially in the jungle. It could be just the fact that Crutch likes his pick. We can see he has got that crown, so it's not like he's putting it out of nowhere. And when you think about it, I mean, it could definitely work. I don't know if it's the right composition for it. There's no real front line outside of the Krang for this Countess to help with the dive, and there is a lot of magical damage from the side of the Rats. But, I mean, if she can get a Countess going, if she can get those stacks on your passive and get that sustain, and what I would really like to see is if he can go that Bruiser build, go that World Breaker, stuff like the Flux Matrix as well, then he can just be a second frontliner at that point.
Yeah, and that's something that definitely opens up the field, because right now they've gone for a composition called the best kind of defense is a good offense, right? They're going for all of these high damage, not so tanky targets, and they're gonna see if they can make it work. But we just saw Rogue against Hive make an amazing comeback. So let's just see if that is the same thing that'll happen this time, or if Rattus Maximus has more up their sleeves than they expect.
I mean, Rats definitely need to get this early game. I think Rogue once again have picked up that scaling comp. They've got that Sevarog. We've seen what he can do, and that late game Iggy as well. Kira, there's just got so much damage come those 4 or 5 item marks that if we do get to that late game, we get to that 30-minute plus mark, then it is going to be very hard for the Rats to come back. However, if they do get ahead in this early game, I mean, I think it's a lot harder for Rogue to come back into a game like this because, again, it's just all damage. That's all the Rats have, and that's all they really need. And it doesn't matter how tanky your Sev is, how many stacks he has. If you can't survive 4 magic damage people diving on you, you're just going to die.
And you don't want that to happen if you're Bondrewd. You want to get those siphon stacks up and running and make sure that you are a tanky boy and a force to be reckoned with. But it's up against Creed, which I might just have to preface was actually one of the top players of Paragon, the Overprime. So it's great to see him over in Predecessor pulling off the offlane against such a massive player in Bondrewd. But Conte right now looking to see if he can deward a little bit, maybe an engage. The stasis bomb is gonna miss, and there is the barricade coming in from Conte. They have to keep themselves inside the tier 1 tower. Rattus Maximus are having none of it.
And we see on the other side as well, Rattus Maximus ganking onto that solo side, just taking the sign buff. I don't think Bondrewd used to blink. It does look like he still has it available. So nothing really gained from either jungler, but they have completist farming their entire side. However, it does look like Conte has skipped his free camp. We see Crutch still on it, so the Countess is going to have the farm advantage, at least for that first back. I don't think it will make much difference for their first items. However, again, in this early game, nothing really happening. First blood was attempted, that's for sure. But I think we're going to have a pretty calm and precise game for the start of this Woofy.
Yeah, Falcon, this is what you and I usually call the EU gameplay experience, but we'll see here in NA if it'll change into the slaughterhouse that we are used to seeing. But we do have a few EU players going on here on the side of Rogue, so maybe it fits the bill.
Yeah, I guess that explains why they didn't get that many kills in the last game at the start. Just wanted to take it nice and easy. However, that is definitely not going to be the game plan in this one. They need to at least keep even before that mid-game mark. However, they are playing quite well so far. It's a nice stun. Conte's back.
The pressure is on, and Blue is so low. Blue is now feeling blue as he falls to Conte Iacula with the Spear of Nier. That's the first blood for the side of Rogue, and the field has been opened.
And just a very good first blood. Didn't get the blink in the first gank, but knowing that Conte still had to do his blue buff, he just came over once again. And I think it's just Rattus Maximus expected Conte to be on the other side of the map, taking that 5 camp, taking the 2 camp. However, the gank was successful. No Fang Tooth conversion because Crutch is on this side of the map, and the death timers are still rather short at this stage of the game. So no objectives really gained. It's just going to be that first blood golden experience. But I mean, Rogue already on the board.
Yeah, that's definitely a difference from last match that they had up against the Hive squad, where they were really far behind in the first few minutes of the game. But now they are showing up. They have learned from their last match, their last mistakes, and now are playing way more confidently and safe.
And just something I thought about while seeing that gank in the mid lane. Countess is actually a pretty good counter for the Iggy, because once he pops down Inferno, once Rango tries to use his ultimate to get that knockback, you can just see Crutch using that side slip to return back to where he started and just completely dodge the ultimate. So in terms of actual counters, I think it's something that Rattus could have thought of quite easily and allowed it to happen. However, we still need to wait for that level 6 to come through for both junglers. The Colosseum as well as that Feast are going to be vital for these ganks.
Yeah, and once the Feast is up and running, then it's Feast or Famine once Crutch gets into the nick of things. So we'll have to wait and see if he goes for it. He actually wants to engage. The tether is there onto Bondrewd. He has to spend the colossal blow, but he's still so very low, and Crutch knows that he can get out if he needs to, but Bondrewd has to go away.
Conte is still around, but again, hasn't got level 6 the same as Crutch. They just didn't get it yet. I think that gank might have been a too over-aggressive. If we could see Crutch maybe look for another farm area, maybe waited for him to take some of that lane minions XP in the shadows, it would have been a lot better. But however, at least they got the Colossal Blow out. They didn't get the blink out from Bondrewd, so he is doing very well on this Rogue to deal with this pressure that is coming from the side of Rattus Maximus. And Rogue doesn't get anything on the other side of the map either.
Yeah, and this is actually a point that you mentioned earlier, the power of of these players. They have gone for a full-on magic damage composition. And once we see Rattus Maximus reach level 6, Blue and Do will have a lot to offer. I mean, we have Ether Crystals, we have Synaptic Obliterated, the Particle Shredder will most likely be online as well. Like, how can you really counter such damage?
Deca. Deca has so much CC in her kit. She can easily deal with any sort of engagement. However, adding a countess to that mix might be very hard, because that countess has 6, has got that feast. But Conte is here as well as a 3v3.
Conte is trying to stop the engage, and that is gonna be successful. Crutch has to backpedal. It was not really the engage that he was looking for, but that is just more credit to the jungler of a rogue, as he was there right on time.
And immediately going over to the Fangtooth, Vangel had the first rotation. We saw that on the map that Matty had actually reset on the gadget himself, so the Iggy can set up the towers. They can get all 4 members over here for the side of Rogue, and although Rattus Maximus are here, they need to get into the pit soon.
The first Fangtooth has fallen, and it's in the hands of the Rogue squad, but they do engage. Rattus Maximus wants to get a kill for themselves. Conte using the Colosseum to try and hold them in check, but he falls to Maddie and the power of the Seek and Destroy. Penguin has to get away together with Bundroot. They cannot stay for any longer. Creed in the backline gets a hold on to Wangle, most likely with a tether combo, with the judgment of the heavens followed by the light that blasts away. So that's gonna be a 1 for 2 right now in this early game, 9 minutes.
Bondroot might also be in data, but he has still got that tank. He's already got that crystalline curious, immediately itemizing towards that anti-magic that we expected from him, and that's just going to make him so hard to kill in this mid game as well. And I think it was only 2 kills in that Fang pit. It was the first blood earlier on, and when you look at who gains from that, I mean, yes, Rogue got that first Fangtooth, but giving 2 kills over to Rattus Maximus is going to be very beneficial. However, I don't believe Crutch got either assist on those, so he didn't get any of those stacks. Creed got 1, and I'm not 100% sure who got the other one. I believe it was Blue who got it on the Jongo. Oh no, sorry, it was Bard on the Argus. So not the best recipients of those kills, so I think overall Rogue definitely gains from that.
Yeah, and as we talked about, the snowballing will definitely be there if you give too many kills away to the side of Rattus Maximus. They have so much damage to offer, so these 2 kills are definitely going to be a problem. But we'll see if a Rogue has answered that calling. Crutch right now stealing design buff and trying to box it out with Bundroot, but he got what he came for, so he's just gonna go back, and Bundroot is pretty much embarrassed about that situation, I think.
He really cares. We've got Conte over here as well, so both junglers are on the side of the map as expected, with the mini prime still active. However, Bondroot just isn't taking any damage. He's taking a bit, yes, he does over half HP. That is with 2 members of the Rats coming and trying to help him. With Conte now splitting between the 2 members of Rats, this is going to be dangerous here.
The feast comes through, but it doesn't matter. He's gonna survive. And there's the Spear of Nier on top to make sure that Conte gets crushed. And now they're on the retreat from Creed. Bondroot and Conte trying to split up to make sure that it's not both of them being in trouble. Even though the tether goes through and the light, you're not gonna survive that, Conte. But Bondroot does get away, but it's still a 2 for 3.
Every time I see that Spear of Nier, it is so ridiculous how much damage it does against those low HP targets. We do see a slight skirmish in the dual lane as well, but I don't think there's going to be anything coming back from that. And with both junglers dead in the meantime, no mini prime attempt is going to be started from either team. However, Creed has got the push in that solo side. He got the extra engages. Neff goes very, very low. This Wastelander takes is going to be enough. That is going to be another kill for the side of the Rats, and that is given over to the Drongo.
Well, Blue is certainly happy about that. He did get killed in the beginning of the game for the first blood, but he is back with a vengeance. He and Bard have been turning up the heat already. They knew that this start was just a little bit of a fluke. They got it. They were just waiting for this opportunity to strike, and now Blue is confidently sitting at 1500 gold and can get some really much needed items.
Yeah, it's probably going into that Vanquisher second item, I can imagine, on that jungle. It already has that Lightning Cork, which has been the staple for the newly found crit builds in this patch. And, I mean, we were saying earlier, we've been saying this entire match, all the rats have is damage, but they have so much of it. And we can just see it there. Nev wasn't able to fight back. The Deca Kira lane has just got nowhere near as much damage they need. They have the setup, yes, but unless they can burst down a target, they can't win those extended fights. And the later this game goes, the more XP this Arcus gets and the more levels he gains, then he's going to be even more dangerous.
And right now, the Colosseum on top of Kree will make sure that he is kept in check. Will it go down and become a stack on the Colosseum? It just does! Right at the last second before it falls down. Conte getting a stack on the Colosseum passive, and that is so huge for him. Crutch, in the meantime, notices and wants to engage on this. He does have the feast available, but will he commit? No, he will not, because Wangle is there to tango.
Yeah, Wrangle always has that first step in the mid lane every single time we've seen it in this game. Just having that Iggy push, having that poke against the side of Matty just means that he can help out these side lanes, help out these Fangtooths. And although the mini-prime once again has not been started, Creed did too much damage to the side of Rogue. It at least gives them a kill, at least gives them that freedom to move as well, because the second Fangtooth is now spawned, and we can imagine a 5v5.
Yeah, the Fence did not connect too much from Penguin, but it definitely made sure that Plu wanted to keep his distance. He did not want to fall to Neft, because we know what happens once Neft gets an advantage. He keeps pushing it. And right now, multiple members of Rogue seem to be situated around this second Fangtooth. They did manage to get the first one, and if they manage to get the second one, it's gonna help them with the rotations, Falcon.
Yeah, they started it, but Iggy hasn't set up. He hasn't got those turrets down. Creed was able to at least delay him, and it's going to be hard for him to get into the pit now. Has eventually gotten in there, but 4 members of Mats are here, but you haven't got the jungler.
And right now, they are trying to engage onto this. Rattus Maximus want to get a hold onto Wangle. He has to pop the Epoch, but what's that? A little bit too late. The Blink as well makes sure that he survives, but the Synaptic Obliterator makes sure that he falls anyways. Creed within the pit, dealing so much damage and pressuring so hard together with Crutch and Blue. They managed to get all 5 members of Rogue. They turned this game upside down.
Rogue gets the Fangtooth, but the Rats take the prize. They get all 5 members of Rogue, and that was just a complete domination. The damage is online. They are able to obliterate them with the Synaptic Obliterator, plus a few others. They are going straight to that mini-farm. They're going to also take the tier 1 tower in the meantime. That is the first tower of this game, 15 minutes in, and this mini-farm, although it's not going to be up for the main prime, it's not going to be up for the Fangtooth, they can get so many towers with this if they give it over to the right person.
Yeah, and I do think it's gonna be Creed, the man with the Creed. And his Creed is pretty much to just own the entire field as well as possible and hold off that Sevarog from getting online. But anyways, Conte trying to see if he can get hold on to somebody, but it's not really going to be successful. But here's Penguin with a stasis bomb. It doesn't connect, but defense will. And now Conte will try to see if he can add some more insult to injury. However, they have to get out of there because they notice that there are more enemies about.
Yeah, they haven't got Neff nearby. However, that does give space for Bondry. He can push in this tier 1 tower in the server side. That should be the return tower for the side of Rogue. Neff is also on the Jura side. However, we can see on the map we have Plu as well as Crutch coming over, so he can't walk up onto that tower. But however, that at least is a tower in return. So now the question is, how much gold did they gain from that team fight? How much money do the Rats have in their pockets? As well as the fact is, how much can Creed do with this mini prime?
Well, first of all, he can make sure that his lane survives as long as possible. He can even pressure into that tier 1 and off lane, but I think most of the times once you get it on the off laner, it's usually just to make sure that the opposing off laner doesn't win their lane. But it's already at the point where his tier 1 is down, so maybe a rotation?
I mean, yeah, I feel like he's still trying to get a tier 1 tower because the only other tier 1 tower on the map is on the other side of the map. It's not really efficient to do that. Plus, still against the Servog, he still can easily push in that wave and get that tower whilst the rest of the rats focus on this duo side. As I'm saying that, we already have 4 members over on this side of the map. And, I mean, if Rogue step up like they are doing, this is a fight.
The Colosseum is coming in on top, and it actually connects within the vicinity of Plu, making sure that another stack goes the way of Conte and another kill in the hands of the Rogue squad. But he has to get out of there. He's so low, and Duke can just use the Synaptic Obliterator, but it gets blocked. Maddie has to go in and take it with the Blink. But Neft manages to get through, and the fight is still going. Penguin is so low, and the Purge from Neft is popped, making sure that Maddie is in trouble. He has to pop the Epoch, but it's too little too late. The Vengeance is here, and Neft gets another kill under his belt.
That's massive for Rogue. They got so many members. Yes, they didn't get the mini fight from Creed, but they got 3. Also, Wrangle just nearly killed Crutch in the mid lane. That's going to be at least another tower for the side of Rogue, as well as the fact that they got that tower in the mid lane from Iggy as well. So now, even though they lost that second Fangtooth so hard, they are gaining the money back so incredibly quickly. Plus the amount of shutdowns they just gained from that. It's hard to really visualize how much they did actually gain from it. However, I mean, this game is now fully even once again.
Yeah, we did actually see that in the last match of Rogue versus Hive, that they were really far behind the first few minutes, like the first 10-12 minutes, and then afterwards they turned up the heat. This is the playstyle of Rogue. They like to play it safe and defensively until they're online, and we have seen it pay off already. They've gone for objectives whenever possible, but that's only because they got that start and they played so safely until that point.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these tab screen as well. One thing I want to look at is that Neft actually has gone for that Vanquisher instead of the lightning bolt on Kira's gone for that old burst damage on the Kira with the dust proc, which has been very beneficial against this Squishy comp of the rats as well. We also see Magnify on that counter has also got that Orb Enlightenment, and it's building into another item that's hard to really see what it is yet, but it has gone kind of tanky on this counter, so it is definitely the right decision. But the third Fangtooth is up, and that's going to be the walking point.
The opening is there with the Colosseum, but Crotch is ready to answer and pops that Blink to get sure, not the Blink, but the Blink ability to get sure that that he falls. Rogue is a little bit on the back foot here, as they have lost already their jungler, and Maddie gets Penguin right in the back with a hat and add criticism to the chef for what horrible food has been served. Bondrud has to get away, and all of Rattus Maximus are ready to go for this objective. There's little to nothing you can do over on Rogue. You are on the back foot, and Reed is hungry.
But look at the amount of damage that Mats have taken. Wrangle is still basically 4 HP. Bondrud is in there as well. Neft is trying to split them apart. There is a 3v5, but the HP bars are so low for anyone. Anyone can die at any moment.
And speaking of dying at any moment, Bondrud seems to be in trouble right here, but Neft is ready with the Purge, countering Crotch, making sure that they are safe for another day. Maddie is on the retreat from Conte. Wangle getting due in the background. And that just means that they are actually winning this second engage. Round number 2 is going their favor. Blue is going down to Wangle's Inferno. And that opens up the field. 4 members make that 5 are going down on the side of Rattus Maximus. Rogue is online and ready, and they're going for their next objective.
Wrangle, Neft, and Bondrud did such a good job of delaying rats. They could not start the Fangtooth because of the amount of poke coming in from this Iggy, from this Kira. Bondrud splitting apart the group as well, and it delayed them for such a long time that allowed Conte to respawn, allowed him to get back into that fight as a full HP Zaros. And from that point onwards, it was Rogue's team fight at any point. Now they have that third Fangtooth. Now they have that 8% power buff and defensive buff. And although the power is nice, the defenses are going to be so good against the side of this Rats comp, because they just have to build magical damage. Yes, Plu has got a decent storyline. He's gone 4, 3, and 4. But it's just one Drongo against the entirety of Rogue.
And that pressure is just a little bit too much to handle if you're caught out with just a stasis bomb alone. it's just going to be the end. You can just ride home the last check and go home and say, oh, I got fired at work today. And your significant other will most likely be very disappointed about that. But at the end of the day, that's just the power of a Rogue. That's what they've done so far. They have shut down Rattus Maximus's momentum. And since they have to build full aggressive due to their comp, you really have to wonder if Rogue are maybe just gonna ignore that.
I don't think they can ignore that, because damage is still damage at the end of the game. We are still very much in that damage meta. Tanks are slowly coming back. Yes, we see it as a Rogue on the game. We've seen the steal as well, but the bruisers, the magical bruisers especially, have been running on the show, and the ADCs are still there. So although it's going to be a lot harder, especially with that third Fangtooth, we got to remember the 2 games we've seen so far where the team who has got the 3 Fangtooths loses. So can Rogue beat the curse?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It has definitely been the case so far with the 2 first games this PCC8 Swiss stage. But we are at the 3rd, and it's a 3rd chance, you know, 3rd time's the charm and all that. So maybe they will crush that curse, but we do have another curse in the game that's gonna be like available next weekend. But that's a topic for a completely other time. Meanwhile, Buntrud is going in to try and engage onto Crutch. He has to spend the blink, but was that really what you needed right now? It was definitely not what you needed. A huge cooldown taken off the board.
It's a huge cooldown, but it also keeps his life. He could have very easily died, and with the All Prime spawn, it's 24 minutes nearly on the clock. That All Prime is going to die very quickly. Yes, it got buffed. The defenses have been increased on this path, but against a Kira, against an Iggy, they're still going to die very, very quickly. And if Rats lose their jungler at this stage of the game, that basically guarantees it from the side of Rogue. Although saying that, Buntrud is still split prison on the other side of the map. This is a 4v5 if the Rats want to look for it.
The Rats are positioned around this Orb Prime pit, but Rogue are standing by just the same. It seems to be a bit of a safety net they're opening up here. They only want to catch the fish that jumps into the net, and they don't want to sail too far out. But that is also very patiently played by Rogue, because we have seen what Rattus Maximus can do when you miss position.
Yeah, and I think Rogue have got a very good game plan. They are just knowing that they do outscale. They do have this Sevrog, this Iggy, this Kira, so they can take it slowly. They don't have to force anything. They don't have to just start the objective. But if they can get a single pick, that just makes it so much easier. And although they have tried multiple times, at least they are burning the blinks. And I mean, we can just see on the map, Plu has shown himself on the other side of the map. They know that the Drongo is not going to be there if they want to start it.
That is the bell ringing for the side of Rogue. They have their opportunity to strike, so just get that ward out of the way and engage. They are usually doing pretty well in these objective fights, so they could go for it if they do so wish for it. But they are gonna play it safe. They're not gonna overextend or overstay their welcome and just reset. And I'm just wondering, Falcon, what would be the dream situation for Rattus Maximus right now?
They kill Bondrude, everyone else reset, and they take the Orb Prime. But with how the game has been going so far, I doubt that's going to happen. We got to also factor in the Primal Fangtooth is going to be spawning in about 30 seconds to a minute's time. So if either team starts this Orb Prime, I think the other team might just run straight towards that Primal Fangtooth and trade it out. However, looking at the map, I don't think that's going to be an issue as we get.
Penguin is on the retreat. He felt the damage of the Synaptic Obliterate and falls, but Buntrud as well will answer and get crushed. The hunt is on 1-for-1. Make that 2-for-1 as Stu takes a hold onto Penguin. They are on the retreat, but Buntrud is strong. Buntrud is true. He wants to get out of there, and so do you. Neft actually managing to get a hold on to Creed here with the Vengeance stacks popping. And Plu as well with the Purge. They're having so much damage on the board. And there's nothing you can do over on Rattus Maximus. This opens up the field for Rogue to take this Orb Prime.
The Rats thought they found their target. They thought they found Penguin alone. But Penguin managed to survive for such a long time. It allowed Conte and Bondrud to get on to the backline, get the pop on to Crutch, and as soon as that jungler died, that was basically their front line. Creed was trying to do what he could, but it's still a Krang, it's still just a magical bruiser. Just the damage from Wrangle, the damage from Neft was all that was needed, and Conte himself, he's got 5 kills, he's got the damage that is such in a good position as well. Now Rogue have got that all prime that we have been watching for the last 4 or 5 minutes, and with the Primal Fang Tooth spawning, they are going to be going straight towards it.
We know what the game is. It's time to get that double bubble buff, or the Nikki buff as some people have called it in chat, which is not something you want to happen if you're over on the Rattus Maximus side, because what I also keep mentioning, Penguin and Neft are members of Team Immune, and what they do best is pushing their advantages. So if they go for this is gonna be a big problem for the side of Rattus Maximus. They're holding off the field, they're waiting for an opportunity to strike, but they know that they can't fully engage, because that's most likely gonna be the last thing they do. Bundroot coming in after the fence is popped. Reed has to keep his distance, he's getting siphoned and subjugated into the ground. And the members of Rogue are pushing forward. They seem to want to go for this.
It's going to be so difficult. They're just looking for that single pick. Although they have that all prime, they know they can't just force this Primal Fang Tooth. We still have Rats with a lot of damage. If they can just get one pick, one kill, even just low HP bars, force them to reset, they can take this so much safer. And now we can see them. They haven't even looked at it. Again, they're looking for another poke. Creed is going to be on the backside.
He has to jump out of the way. Bundroot is so low and falls to blue, and a Tesla Dome on top from Maddie. That is so much damage that you just can't handle. You just lost your tank. You lost your offlaner, which is so good for the side of Rattus Maximus, as they can finally engage an objective. But Conte from the side wants to answer this call. Neft will actually get a hold on to Crutch with some perfectly timed shots. And also Creed as well. The pressure is there. The Colosseum on top. They're actually managing to demolish the entirety of Rattus Maximus despite having no offlaner.
We don't need the Primal Fang Tooth. There is 40-second death timers. Penguin, that is one of the best status bombs I have ever seen hit all 3 members, followed up by the Colosseum of Conte. Although Gats got the early kill, they got the suppression kill onto Bondroot. That was not enough. Wrangle came in clutch, Neft came in clutch, and Penguin with the best re-engage we have seen this tournament. Rogue are going to go 3-0.
An absolute perfect score. 3-0 in this Switch stage day number 1. These guys are unstoppable. Oh my goodness. In the first match, when I saw them against Hive, it was a little bit like, gritty, and they turned it back. But this time, they turned up the heat from the get-go. They knew they had an opportunity to strike with their comp, and it was just beautiful to see.
Yeah, they didn't fall behind in that early game. It was a quite early game. It was a game. But once we got that fight around that all prime, it just let loose. Neft was doing Neft things, as we always say. Wrangle was playing out of his mind as well. Definitely enjoys playing that Iggy. And when you look at Rogue, maybe teams just have to ban away that Iggy, because he has just been, not exactly solo carrying, but it's been doing so much work on it that what can teams do against it?
Well, I mean, if you get the Iggy out of the way, then Wrangle can rock the gadget, and that's also a problem. And then you open up the field for Conte to get the Aurora, so that's not good either. It just seems that they're super incredibly consistent. But now that we're talking about consistency, that is everything from me. Now you can get some consistency with the desk over there with Trix and Joe, yours truly, and our dog.
Thank you so much, Falcon and Woofy, all the way from Europe, casting that game. We're back here at the desk. My name is Ardog with the Triple G. We're back with Joey and Trix to break down game number 3 for you. We just watched here at the PCC8. It's day 1 of the Swiss stages. Exclamation point bracket will take you and you can help follow along during this tournament and see how the tournament is going. Wow, oh wow. Rogue, they just ran away and took that game number 3 with them. And can we just mention Conte? They target banned Aurora, but Conte just knows how to dominate with Zarus as well. What else did you notice, Trix?
Yeah, Conte with the Zarus, they were huge instances where the Colosseum was trapping multiple people. Just Bondrewd was unkillable from like 10 minutes on, just holding W key into the back line. And it was just anytime it looked like Rattus Maximus were going to maybe get a couple kills and convert on an objective, it didn't seem like they were ever really able to convert. They overstayed a couple times, like that fight around 20 minutes like comes to mind with them kind of Benny Hilling around the walls until people on Rogue were coming back out of spawn. You know, they died, they spawned, they came back, they killed Rattus Maximus, took an objective. The kills do not tell the whole story because that game was far from being close in my opinion.
Yeah, like one thing I said about Rattus Maximus is they have to do to win the game. It's go for like this really quick kills, really quick plays, but they did the opposite and they took a long time making some of those plays. Like the whole like running around circles around like the Faintooth pit while Nef was like still alive was just like the worst thing you can probably do in that scenario. But not only that, just the draft was just didn't have an answer at all to the Zedward because they're all like magical damage based. They don't really have the sustained damage besides Jungle, but that's only one guy for this Wave Boss Bondrewd on Zedward. Like there was the option to go like a Grux or Crunch or someone that is a little bit more sustained damage in the jungle, but the Count's pick was just like not it at all. And the whole purpose of that going for that Count's pick was trying to go for the quick backline picks, but we didn't really see that at all on that Count's pick. So even her build didn't really lack the Mega Cosm. Jungle was really late on the Demolisher. Like they'd have no answer in terms of the draft to the Zedward, and then the way they build the items was really bad against Bondrewd's team comp right there.
Leave it to Joey to know all about those builds because he is always cooking with them. But this game was a little bit different from the first two we watched because it seems like it was the first two games were more one-sided, but Rogue just really showing just how much of a contender they are as a team. When you're looking at some of the numbers here, Conte with that 80% kill participation and ending the game 7, 5, and 9. He was able to just really show up for his team and land his Coliseum in order to help initiate and engage with those team fights. And at the same time, you guys were saying it, Bondrewd was just an unkillable raid boss.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at the stats, Wangle dealing so much damage, over 30,000 hero damage dealt that game, highest on his team by several thousand. Really showing why that Iggy and Scorch is such a dominant pick and why it's a comfort pick for him. He did an excellent job at just locking down areas. There was a couple of times where he got in the back line. He manages to press R on Plu, just deletes the Drongo. And it was just, it was, the fights were incredibly long and drawn out because Bondrewd was so tanky, but it just seemed like every time Rogue managed to actually convert on objectives, whereas Rattus Maximus was unable to do that.
Yeah, the more games we see like Rogue being put out, the more we kind of see the strategy they're just trying to go for, where they're okay with having a weaker early game. If that means they can secure like a Zedward, a Iggy scores, it means that the mid to late game is just like unbeatable. So that's something that like LTs need to take notes on and be very aware of that. Hey, this is the kind of strategy that Rogue likes to play. You either need to learn how to counter that, or you need to shut that off by like getting rid of the Iggy or some of the other picks in these last 2 games.
Now the question is, are they going to target ban that Iggy, or they're going to keep targeting Conte and take away the Aurora? We'll just have to find out. But we are going to take a quick break and we'll be back with game number 4 here at PCC8.